All my rowdy friends are settling down. All my crunchy granola mom friends are getting the vaccine. That's probably not true, but a lot of them I think will. And I think that what will happen is a lot of people who are afraid now to say no to suffocating yourself are people are gonna just say, well, why not? Why not do that? It will make life easier. That's, I think, the reason that a lot of people are suffocating themselves in a satanic pagan ritual. I talked a little bit about like that in my last video. Um, I've been having some issues. Uh, I don't know that it's particularly targeted. I have no proof that it's particularly targeted at our house per se, but I have had some internet issues, and I was trying to find an article to read, which I may not be able to find that, but I do want to talk about it. And it is about I think it was written by a man, and it was about his son, and his son was trying to get on a plane to visit his parents, and he got all the way on. He was on the emergency road, and he was kicked off. So he was not able to visit his parents um, for Christmas. But his parents were very proud of him, and I am too. These are heroes. These are heroes, people who are standing up for our beliefs, all of them. Uh, I mean, you're really standing up for all of us if you can do this. Um, Here's a piece. I will read it now. Glad I found it. Um, my son got kicked off a Delta flight today, so he was not able to join us on Christmas Day because he would not comply and put on a mask to please everyone else. He walked into the airport, went through the TSA checkpoint, gave his ticket at the gate, got to his seat in the emergency row, and sat down. The door was shut and the loading ramp was pulled back. Ultimately, it was the flight attendant that gave instructions to the passengers in the emergency rows that was upset that he would not comply. So it was a flight attendant, and she had him kicked off. He said everyone was very cordial to him as he was to them. But um, I think this is very well written, and it wasn't. People aren't standing up for others who try to do this. And this reminded me of something I read the other day from someone around Pueblo who was so just bothered because the plane couldn't leave because the woman wouldn't put on her mask. These people don't understand what they're getting us into by complying. Here's the rest of that story. He called me while he was in the airport to let us know that he would not be coming home for Christmas. I was neither surprised nor upset, but I can't say the same from the rest in my family. So here's where my opinion starts. After thinking about it for a couple of hours, I'm very proud of my son for standing up for his convictions. However, I am very disappointed in everyone around him and everyone everywhere who does not stand up for their convictions. There are a lot of people I talk to that are tired of wearing a face mask and wish it would just end, but still put it on to go out. I could link to many studies that show face masks do not work as they are portrayed to work, and you can find the same if you just look and start to question what's really going on. And a lot of the face masks have that very thing on them where they say they don't protect from any virus or infection or anything like that, but people are wearing them anyway. It's a ritual. It's a ritual. Back to the article. My posting links will do you no good. If you are one of these people, you are the one I'm disappointed with. And there are many of you, probably the majority of everyone. You are unwilling to stand up and be counted on to do what is right. And no, just wearing a mask to be compassionate is not right. It's just following political mandates. You are the complicit ones, not willing to stand out to make a statement against what you know to be wrong or at least misguided. You're going along with everyone, not wanting to make waves, is what's causing this situation of judgment and contention. And I would ask you to go out to a store, walk into where people are walking around, and stop. Stop for 5 minutes and just watch people. Watch how they handle their masks and then touch many other things as they shop. Now go back outside and watch people as they park and see where they are pulling their masks from and putting them on, and watch as they take the masks off and where they put them. If you think for even a second, you will realize that the way other people are handling their masks is anything but sanitary and will never prevent the spread of any illness, but rather may even cause the spread of some illness. And I've mentioned this before with bacterial pneumonia. I miss not having my son here with us today, but I stand by him by never wearing a mask anywhere. I feel sorry for you if you wear a mask even though you do not want to. I feel sorry for the lives that you have negatively affected because of your complicity to these unfounded mandates. Mandates that have nothing to do with health and everything with power and control. The medical industry cannot prescribe anything that is not FDA approved, yet political powers have convinced people that the medical industry is prescribing everyone wear a medical intervention that is not FDA approved. Check your mask. Do you even think that the FDA would approve of your mask and your mask wearing practice? If you won't refuse to wear a mask completely, I would at least ask you to not wear a mask everywhere until someone asks you a couple of times to wear one. Take a stand against the political powers to control us and use your own beliefs, and don't just regurgitate what you have heard on the media about the wearing of the mask. And go to church tomorrow without a mask, even if it's not your turn to go to church and sing loudly. Be a lion, not a sheep. That is beautifully written. And that son is a hero. And I'm really thankful for him. My oldest uh, has a job, and he told them when he got the job here in Pueblo, when we're here, he's working at a place, and he told them, he said, I cannot safely wear a mask, and they were fine with it. And he's never worn a mask to work. So, and I did see there was, I don't even know how it got there. There was a mask in the Odyssey today in the Ho when I went to the grocery store, and I just took it and threw it in the trash. I I could have put it on. A lot of people would have. And where has that been? Well, it's been riding around in the Ho for a while. Um, and a lot of people do that. A lot of people hang them from the mirror. I'm going to suggest further that you just throw those things away and start living life the way you lived it a year ago. Nothing's changed except the propaganda. And I will say something about the propaganda. I think that there's a strong push these days for churches. And I say that and I'm smiling, but I'm not really. Inside, it hurts my soul. Um, I think I've noticed a lot of preachers have gotten COVID. And the reason that happens is we know how that happens. Maybe somebody has symptoms, maybe they don't. There's a church that I know of that's actually doing testing, a church that is allowing the swab to go way up the nose, and with a test that is basically meaningless. So I think there's a really strong push now, because I think that the planners and funders of this have gotten wind that a lot of, there are some churches that are rebelling, and I think they're really trying to to hit the churches hard. So what happens is a preacher goes in, maybe he has a cold, um, maybe he has something else going on, but then they give him a test. And it could be. I don't know how this whole thing works. I know that there is money received from what I have read, um, for COVID diagnoses and deaths. So, which is a huge incentive for if somebody dies in a car accident for their death to be called a COVID death, because then there's money involved. And so the preachers, I think, are getting the tests and being encouraged to get tests and told that this is a good thing to do, and they're doing it. And for all we know, um, certain occupations go to a certain lab. Okay, do you know where if you've taken a test, do you know where your lab is? Do you know where that test has gone? You probably don't. Do you know how many cycles that particular lab um, amplifies the material in the PCR process? It's more honestly called a process than a test, but it's being used as a test. So how many cycles? If it's above 30 or 35, it's quite possible that there's a false positive. So maybe they find out if somebody is connected with the church that they send it to a certain lab, and that lab, the people who send it may or may not know that that lab has, does 40 cycles. Okay. And the FDA recommends up to 40 cycles on the PCR. So, and then the test comes back positive, and then you've got all kinds of things you can do. You can give drugs, you can put the person in the hospital, you can do all kinds of things. And from there, all kinds of things can happen. A lot of people are killed every year from medical mistakes. Um, so you see how that tumbles into getting the churches to be on board with this and to comply. And I told you about my experience last Sunday, and this morning I was in the back of a church. I love these people that are going to this church, but I hate to see what's happening to them. So I was in the back, and I was putting some cards in various places in the back for people, and someone came to the bathroom, and that person was suffocating himself going to the bathroom with no one else around, really. He wasn't protecting me, he wasn't protecting himself, but he probably thinks so, because I went to the grocery store later today, and at the grocery store, I heard probably 2 or 3 times, and I was probably in there 15 or 20 minutes. I heard propaganda. Your mask protects it. Others masks protect you. That's how you get people on board with this pagan agenda. And by the way, when the person came back and was going to the bathroom with filthy mask on, I just left. I was done with it. Really tired of what this is doing to people. I'm tired of what it's doing to people I love. And I'm having to leave those people behind because I don't want to be a part of it. And there are a lot of people who see what's going on, and I appreciate that. I really do. But the people who don't probably aren't going to. It is as if they are in hypnosis. So we get back to the original question. All my crunchy granola mom friends are getting the vaccine. That is not the way the Hank Williams Jr. song goes, but it is hard to. It's a lot more than all my rowdy friends are settling down. But all my crunchy granola mom friends are getting an experimental vaccine. An experimental vaccine. And that's exactly what's happening. A lot of them will, because they're not saying no, and they're not going to. And a lot of people are getting tested because it's happening at church. And these faith-based programs that we've had for a few years, that's where all this is leading to. Churches dependent on the government. And it's sickening. So, and when I say the crunchy granola mom friends, I'm talking about the breastfeeding, co-sleeping, previously unvaccinated people. A lot of them who don't go to church. But yeah, they're in it too. So you've got the churches on one side, and then you've got this whole nother group that would never associate with the churches. And they are also just waiting because they're in such fear, and they're believing that if they get this experimental vaccine, that life will go back to normal for them. Even though we've also heard that it won't. And all these things, all these confusing things that we're being told, that's gaslighting. It's a form of psychological torture. It's why I don't listen to any of this stuff. I mean, I do listen, obviously. It's hard not to listen when you have to hear it when you go to the grocery store, but I don't participate, and I'm very conscious of what's going on. And I hate the things, the suffocation devices. I'm not going to wear them. And the longer this goes on and the more obvious this charade becomes, the easier it is to not do this stuff for me. But a lot of people are joining in. And, even if there was, and there might be, some kind of really bad VIRUS, I don't know. I haven't been convinced with valid scientific evidence that VIRUSs live outside the human body. But even if there was something going wrong, it was very contagious. I don't think any of these MASKSs would stop anything. And they say that they don't. So why are people doing it? Why did that person this morning get up and put that on before he went to the bathroom? It's a ritual. And a lot of people were participating in it. And it sickens me. And soon, those who don't get the experimental vaccine will have a hard time finding food, because the very places that are being masked Nazis, as they call them now, today, are going to be vaccine Nazis in a few weeks or maybe a few months. And you're going to have hard time finding food. I think it's Australia or New Zealand. I get sometimes I just think somewhere over there. I know New Zealand's an island and it's a lot smaller, but they're both having, well, I mean, I think they're both islands, but a smaller island. But they're both having a lot of tyranny, and they have a lot of tyrannical people. So my mind is a little confused on whether this is Australia or New Zealand, but I think it was Australia, where all of the grocery stores, retail stores, are requiring testing, temperature taking, maybe the vaccine starting sometime soon. So people aren't going to be able to go in there without getting this vaccine or something. I mean, there might be ways to look like you've got a vaccine, because that's, I think, what Fauci did, because he got the vaccine supposedly in his left arm, but when he was saying that it hurt, he touched his right arm the next day. So not everybody's getting that. Maybe my crunchy granola mom friends are, but not all of the people who are getting the vaccine are actually getting it. And that's another thing to keep in mind, because people get all excited. A lot of people are so enamored with Dr. Fauci that they actually do whatever he says without question. And so the fact that he is a leader and got this, will persuade a lot of people to do that. So I believe that while not all of my crunchy granola mom friends are going to do this, I believe a lot of them will. And I know one person who's already gotten it. And, I mean, we're all free, but some of us are going to have a harder time getting food in the next few months than others. Um, but that's okay. So back to that guy on the plane. I am so thankful that he stood up for all of us, really, in making freedom of choice. And see, when you've got stupid rules like this, and guidelines and stuff, and people believing it, then it becomes really easy for somebody that just gets irritated with you about something like that flight attendant did to just, well, you're not flying with us because I don't like you because you don't have on a mask, but you also did this, and it becomes really easy to do that. And that's been happening for years too with different things, with, oh, you can anonymously call child protective services and get kids taken away, or you can anonymously do this, or you can anonymously call and get someone's guns taken away. So there's been a lot of stuff that's led up to this moment in history. But I'm so thankful for that man, whoever he was, the son who was on the plane and stood up for his rights. He has every right not to suffocate himself during a flight. And it is really disgusting that there are so many people who don't see that and who don't. He should have had 5 or 6 people who said, keep him on the plane. But no one was standing up. Time to stop talking and start reading. I'm going to read a poem that's called I Used to Feel Sorry for Henry Miller. It's got a word in it that, it is the Lord's Day of comedy. I mean, it's interesting that a lot of people used to think, I've heard, oh, Trisha, that's really sacrilegious when you say the Lord's Day of comedy. But those people are the same ones, a lot of them, that are participating in this satanic pagan mask wearing ritual without question. But it is the Lord's Day of comedy or of whatever. So I'm going to substitute a word. I'm going to substitute a word. I think you'll know what it is. It starts with an F. I'm going to substitute. You'll know when I do it. I used to feel sorry for Henry Miller. When he got old, he stopped writing, dabbled with paints, and put ads in the UCLA paper for secretarial help. Henry preferred Oriental ladies, young ones, and they came by and did little things for him, and he fell in love with them, even though there was no sex. He wrote them letters. All his writing went into love letters, and the ladies were flattered but simply went on teasing him. He liked having them around. Maybe he felt that they held death back a little. Or maybe they stopped him from thinking about it too much, or maybe the old boy was simply horny. I remember a young lady who came to me who said, I was going to have sex with, substitution, Henry Miller before he died, but now it's too late, so I came to see you. Forget it, baby, I told her. I liked the way Henry Miller looked in his last years, like a wise Buddha, but he didn't act like one. I only wish he had gone out in a different way, not begging for it, using his name. I would have preferred to see him continue to write books until the end, right into the face of death. But since he couldn't do it, well, maybe somebody else can. There's some old fart somewhere, I'm sure, who can, if he doesn't diddle his brains away at the racetrack. Charles Bukowski's I Used to Feel Sorry for Henry Miller. So if you are one of my crunchy granola friends who is going to get an experimental vaccine, you go for it. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say no. And I'm getting a lot of practice saying no and being different because I choose to breathe normally and regularly and not make myself sick. I'm going to leave you with this. I might have said this before, but it's worth repeating. There was a man at the post office the other day, and I heard him sneezing a lot. And, I don't get to say bless you much anymore because everybody's afraid to sneeze. And he was behind me, so I couldn't see him, but he sneezed like 3 times, and I said, "Bless you," and then when I was leaving, I said something like, "Well, it's that time of the year, isn't it?" And he said, "Oh, that's my mask. I hate this thing." So here it was, and it was making him sick, and he was continuing to wear it. If you're doing something harmful to yourself and you're continuing that, do you think that's a thing from God, or do you think that's a thing from Satan? Or are you one of those people that thinks God and Satan don't exist, so um, it must be Dr. Fauci? He's a god to some people, not to me. Okay, I hope this helps. I hope you have some courage and strength, and you stop. I just throw away those things. If we all start standing up for each other in this, then we'll make a difference. We'll stop this. If we don't, it'll get worse. And then you'll have to have the vaccine to go into retail shops. You'll have to have the vaccine to go into grocery stores. And you'll have to, there'll be a lot of people who succumb to that. So, okay. I hope you're not one of them. I hope that you are not an experimental vaccine taker, but it's your choice. So I hope you do some research, and I hope you have a wonderful day.